Aloha, good afternoon, everyone. It is Tuesday, April 1st, 2025, and the time is 1:01 p.m. Will the Committee on Housing, Sustainability, Economy, and Health meeting please come to order? I'd like to welcome Committee Vice Chair Cordero, Councilmember Tolva. I believe Councilmembers Dos Santos, Tam, and Tupola are on their way. Pursuant to the Hawaii Revised Statute, Section 92-3.7, this meeting will be conducted as a remote meeting by interactive conference technology with the following procedures in effect for the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide oral testimony on all items on the agenda in two ways: in person in the council chamber and remotely. Remote and in-person oral testimony will be allowed when each agenda item is taken up. Before testifying, each person shall state their name for the record and will be limited to a 1-minute presentation on each item. As both English and Hawaiian are official languages of the state of Hawaii, please, pursuant to Article 15, Section 4 of the Hawaii State Constitution and Section 1-13 of the Hawaii Revised Statutes, members of the public may testify in either language. For oral testimonies offered in Olelo, Hawaii, additional time as may be necessary will be allowed for the testifier to provide an English translation of their testimony. Would welcome Councilmember Dos Santos Tam to the chamber as well. All persons who have registered to testify in person will be called upon first. When your name is called, please come up to the testifier podium. Persons who have not registered will be given an opportunity to testify following the registered testifiers. After in-person testimony has concluded, I will proceed to remote testimony via video conference or phone. When I call your name, please monitor your screen and follow the prompt to unmute. For those who are joining us by telephone only, please press *9 if you wish to testify. Now, I will identify you by the last 3 digits of your phone number. When your number is called, please listen for the prompt to unmute and press *6. Hawaii Revised Statute Section 92-3.7 requires that all votes at a remote meeting be conducted by a roll call unless unanimous. Therefore, I will first call for objections, and if there are any, then I will call for a roll call vote. Written testimonies, including the testifier's address, email address, and phone number, will be available to the public as described on the posted agenda. As a courtesy, please turn off or silence all cell phones for the duration of this meeting. Members, that brings us to item number 1 on our agenda, an update by the Office of Housing on projects funded through the Affordable Housing Fund. They will be providing us with a brief presentation, and a copy of the presentation has been distributed to each of you. It is also available online as Mayor's Message MM46. I believe we have Director Kevin Auger present, along with Director Tashner and other members of the administration. Please, I'll turn it over to you to proceed when you're ready, Director.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair Weyer and honorable council members. Kevin Auger, Executive Director, Office of Housing. Today we'll be providing a brief briefing on the status of the Affordable Housing Fund, recent requests for proposals that the city has issued for public lands held by the city, and also an update on several projects that are currently underway. The first project is the Villages of Capital A, which is awarded by the city in 2019 to the Kobayashi Group. That's approximately 10 acres of land on city-owned property. The development's 406 units in total. 167 of those units opened in Phase 1 in January of this year, and 234 units are scheduled to open in September 2025. Hale Valiku, which is the Aia's sugar mill property, was awarded in 2019 to EHA Development. That's a 139-unit project that's reserved for 62 individuals 62 and older. It's on 3.4 acres of city lands, and it's limited to incomes of 30 to 60 AMI, or area median income. This project's also supported by $6 million of the city's Affordable Housing Fund. Verona Village in Eva Beach, the city partnered with Peter Savio and the Habitat for Humanity to redevelop a historic village on Oahu's Eva Plain, and to offer homes and lots for the purchase of original plantation workers or tenants of record. Phase 1 will be to repair and renovate approximately 35 to 40 existing homes, and Phase 2 will include new construction of up to 88 new homes and a community center. At a resident meeting in February of this year, the developer indicated that it's completed the condominium property regime application required to proceed with the project, and it's targeting beginning Phase 1 construction in the fourth quarter of this year. Because some of these projects overlap with private activity bonds, Council recently approved through Resolution 2574, which was adopted in March 2019, a ground lease to Stanford Car Development for the Kalaima'o Village development. We also City Council approved Resolution 2573, which was also adopted on March 19th, which is approving the issuance of private activity bonds of $30,376,937. We anticipate the bond closing to occur on April 23rd, with a groundbreaking scheduled for June of this year. The city's also preparing a private activity bond issuance for Kuhio Park Terrace, which is a joint venture between the Hawaii Public Housing Authority and the developer High Ridge Costa. In total, we have earmarked $107.7 million of private activity bonds, which are scheduled to close in July this year. That will support 304 units of affordable housing in the first phase of that development. On the Affordable Housing Fund side, the Department of Land Management recently issued RGP DLM 1817502, which was for a total of $8 million of the Affordable Housing Fund. An intent to award has been issued to Kuhio Park Terrace. That's the HPHA project, and that's also scheduled to close in July. The DLM also recently issued RGP DLM 1859213, which was a $5 million request for grant proposals for the Affordable Housing Fund, seeking projects that support 30% of the area median income and below. That request for grant proposals was released in January. Proposals were received last week. We had multiple proposals seeking a grant request from that fund, and those proposals are currently being reviewed by the solicitation committee. The Department of Land Management is also looking to potentially issue another request for grant proposals of the Affordable Housing Fund, which would be RGP DLM 3, and we're looking at a potential issuance in July of this year. We may combine that with recent proposals that we've received for requests for proposals for, seeking development partners, requests for qualifications seeking development partners, and we'll discuss that in a moment. The project in Kiapai Place in Kailua that was issued to Tradewind Capital, Council adopted Resolution 2546 CD1 approving the authorization of a ground lease and a development contract for that development, which will serve the 80% area median income and below demographic. That project's currently in due diligence. The developer is seeking its 201H entitlements, and it expects to apply for low-income housing tax credits to the Hawaii Housing Finance and Development Corporation in February of 2026. In January, on January 30th of this year, DLM issued a request for qualifications of seeking a development partner for a portfolio of assets that included 1615 Alawai Boulevard, 1421 Pensacola, 436 Enna Road, and 130 Baratania. That RFQ was released on January 30th. A pre-proposal conference was held on February 14th. The submittal deadline was March 21st, and we're delighted to inform Council that we received multiple proposals to that RFQ. and the selection committee is currently reviewing those proposals. Regarding Evilay Center, that's a 3.9 acre parcel that the city acquired in January 2024. A request for qualifications seeking a development partner was released on March 3rd of this year. Pre-proposal conference was held March 21st, and the submittal deadline is April 30th. So we look forward to receiving responses to that RFQ shortly. The balance of the lands that we identified in our briefing to council on January 15th include Capital A lands that the city holds that we intend to issue a request for qualifications in April. That will be followed by Delight Bakery in July, Royal Kania Barks Car in October, Mililani Mauka in November, and Waianae Transit Center in December. Those projects are subject to continual review. We may exchange some out. There are some title issues that we're continuing to respond to and try to resolve before the issuance, but that's the proposed deadline as of today. And that's all I have, Vice Chair.
Well, Director, I appreciate that and the thoroughness and just noting and reading. So it looks like the projects extend from the first through the second and third page starting in January 2025 going into January and through March of 2026. So this is great information for these projects. Wanted to turn it over to the committee and welcome Councilmember Tupola as well. Were there any questions for the Director? Councilmember Dos Santos Tam, Vice Chair Cordero.
Thank you, Director. With regard to the Kuhio Park Terrace bond closing, there was recently a news story about how the developer for the low-rise renovations had been swapped out. Will that change have any impact on the city's involvement with this bond?
No, in fact, we've met with both the developer, the HPHA, and the governor's office, together with the HHFDC, to ensure that there would be a smooth closing and there wouldn't be any potential hiccups. So we got all the parties in the room and agreed to continue to move forward.
And then with regard to the 4 properties that were recently RFP'd out, including 130 South Beretania Street, you know, I recently had a community meeting with some of the neighbors. I imagine that for some of the other properties, neighbors, you know, want to be informed about what's going on. Does the department have any plans to do more outreach in those areas, just so neighbors are kept in the loop?
It's a really terrific question. Fortunately or unfortunately, 130 Beretania was the only property in the request for qualifications that received negative pushback from the community. One of the things that we learned from that is that we're going to be scheduled to meet with the neighborhood boards before we issue next. And we've also developed a little informational pamphlet that we can hand out at those meetings. So we've developed a schedule of the board meetings so that I can be there before we issue the RFQs going forward.
Yeah, thank you.
Vice Chair Cordero.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Director. Thank you very much for the update and explaining the Affordable Housing Fund. I do have a clarifying question relating to what we would be able to consider city-initiated projects funded by the Affordable Housing Fund versus a developer, let's say, who approaches the city to be funded by some affordable housing fund. Would you be able to share how we can determine that and what that would look like? I guess, like, it would look like an RFQ would be a city-initiated fund.
Yeah,
right?
So great question. Lots of alphabet soup. The RFQs are requests for qualifications, and we've been issuing those under the Governor's Emergency Proclamation, seeking development partners for city lands, for public lands. In many of those instances, we may also provide affordable housing fund monies as part of the proposals that we receive from developers. But independent of that, we also issue requests for grant proposals, our GPs, which are issued seeking projects for affordable housing fund distribution. So we recently issued an RGP for $8 million that was awarded to the Hawaii Public Housing Authority's Cohio Park Terrace project, primarily because of readiness. That was the only project of the responses that we received that was ready, that had permits in place and had the balance of its financing in place. So those funds were used to fill the gap between low-income housing tax credits, gap financing provided by the state, and private activity bonds. We recently issued a second request for grant proposals of $5 million, and that was earmarked toward projects that respond to 30% of the area median income and below, which is very low, and we got tremendous response to that. Those, I think we had 9 proposals. They came in last week, and they're currently being scored. So that typically we would, when we're providing these funds, it would be either stapled to a request for qualifications for a developer on city lands or an independent request for grant proposals that's issued seeking projects for a certain demographic.
Thank you. Chair, I do have just follow-ups for those responses. Thank you, Director, for those responses. I do have a question as to what would be able to get units out quicker if it's through the RGP and RFP process, or if it's the other way around where, the other way around.
I think we could shave off almost a year through the request for qualifications process. So for instance, we issued for Evilay Center, for instance, we just issued on March 3rd, and we're looking for responses from the potential development partners by April 30th.
But that still would be quite a long process though, right?
And then there's the development process, which is the planning, environmental clearance, environmental review, entitlements, whether that's through Chapter 32 or 201H, and then obviously securing financing, typically low-income housing tax credits if we're talking about affordable housing, and then naturally developing construction documents, which can take some time. For a high-rise that can take almost a year, and then seeking final permits for approval before construction could commence.
And so through that, Director, are you looking to maybe change up if you're going to have more RFQs projects as opposed to the other types of projects so that we can shave time off of getting units out there?
Yeah, that's a really terrific question, Councilmember. Our goal, and one of the things that we discussed in our January 15th presentation, was that when we reviewed the existing portfolio of public lands that the county currently holds, we found 10 projects that could accommodate nearly 2,000 units of housing. And so the goal was, let's get those out, leveraging the governor's EP, emergency proclamation. We're really making a tremendous effort to try to get all of those requests for qualifications issued this year, if possible.
Okay, and just 2 last questions, Chair. So when the emergency proclamation does expire, I don't know if when it will expire, because it's been maybe, a year or 2 already. So what happens then for the funds, and how are we able to, is the RFQ process still going to be the fastest process for us?
It seems like it's the fastest process for attracting development partners, and Director-Designate Catherine Tashner has prepared basically a wholesale rewrite of Chapter 38 that's currently before Council and currently being reviewed. And those revisions would make the ability for the city to issue requests for qualifications permanent as part of those proposed changes or amendments.
Okay, and the very, very last question, Chair. I know that there's projects here that have been in the works, and for example, Verona Village went through a bajillion different phases, and we know that a lot of the time we don't own the land, and once again, it's not city initiated, let alone not yet city funded. So I guess, have you found, are you going to be looking for gaps to be able to assist projects that may end up taking a lot of time or have a lot of intricacies, I guess?
I mean, the 2 places that we can help facilitate where we can have the most impact are policy, obviously, and we're working currently with an internal working group and supported by UHERO to kind of do a top-down review to see what's working, what's not, and what could potentially be changed. The second area where we can have the most impact is helping developers with their financing. and we're currently reviewing a potential program that could provide very low-cost bridge development equity loans, if you will, and we're reviewing that now, and we hope to be able to get something done within the next year or so.
Development equity loans. Oh, sorry. Community development equity loans. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Construction bridge equity loans.
Construction bridge.
Yeah.
Construction bridge equity. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Perfect. Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you very much, Chair. Aloha, Director. My quick question, and I apologize if I didn't hear this, are these put in some type of priority order, or what? How did you list this off from the top to the bottom?
You know, there was no rhyme or reason to it. For instance, there's a project, the Waianae project in your district. You know, we kind of put that out toward the end because we felt that based on comments from the council member, that we wanted to take some time to kind of review what we really wanted to do there. And we've gotten great feedback so far. But there really is no rhyme or reason. It's more a capacity issue than anything else. We can't issue them all at the same time because we.
Yeah, I think because in my previous comments to you, I did mention that I think you guys have to try to do less so that we can do more, because the more we do, the less we get done. So I think if we chose like 4 or 5 or 6, like kind of to Councilmember Cordero's comments, there's all this intricacy, right? There's all of these different things that have to happen. I'm going to give you one case and scenario, and I know this is in Councilmember Toba's district, but he and I work very well together, and I'm talking about Verona Village. So correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't Verona Village get purchased by Peter Savio, or what is our current role in it at all right now?
City owns the land.
So we still own the land, but as far as I'm concerned, isn't Peter supposed to be doing the full communication with the residents, not us?
He is. So we recently attended with Councilmember Toba in February a community meeting that was run by the Savio Group and Habitat for Humanity. And it's our understanding that the Savio Group's in the process of finalizing the condominium property regime so that each of those lots can be subdivided and sold to the tenants of record.
And I know all the details, but thank you for stating that. Definitely for the record, we want that to be said. I guess the question I have in this list is for me, that particular project, we're pretty much hands off with it, right? We own the land. So maybe categorizing some of these as hey, we're the ones pushing all the pieces in this project, or we're letting them use the land. Because, Kapolei Village Parkway, for example, we let them use the land, but we didn't push all the pieces. The Kobayashis and Ahi group pushed the pieces. Then at least we know which ones we're solely over, that we got to execute every little piece until we're done. Because I would consider Verona Village as not one of those.
Just terrific question and a great revelation for me, so that we can explain that each of these projects we would be seeking the development partner to control all the levers. The best, it's an aggressive schedule to get all of these properties into a request for qualifications. But I think the department has done a really terrific job of putting together some good boilerplate documentation that allows us to basically staple an exhibit to that documentation, the request for qualifications documentation that describes what the project is. But the best part about working with the development community is once we've got the RFQs, or the request for qualifications, out the door, and we've made a selection, then we build capacity because we're now partnering with the developers rather than the city doing all the work. So the distinction would be for each and every one of those requests for qualifications, we'd be seeking a development partner to do the heavy lifting. So it wouldn't be the city independently developing those projects.
Understood. I am going to probably get with Councilmember Toba, Representative Alcos, Representative Garcia. Verona Village is kind of its own thing. I did a cleanup there this past Saturday, and there's still a lot of residents confused about, and I know you guys had meetings. I know we've had meetings, but I think we might have to do it person by person, lot by lot, because, Peter was renovating one house. He's saying, okay, some people can renovate, some people, but I don't know if all the residents know if their house should be renovated or if it should be torn down, because the structural integrity of each of the houses is very different. We're talking, it's been there 96 years without renovation. So I think that particular project, of course, I think needs to have a different, whole different thing. We're talking about 30 plantation families. That's not a lot. 30 plantation families deserve specific communication one-on-one because each of their properties is different. Each of the structures of their houses are in different, I would say structural, securities, but also many of them have added on. And so that's also a thing that they're going to have to take off any additions if they buy it. So long story short, that's that. The last thing I have to say is, you know, when I read the housing plan, I know we're not talking about that now, but this kind of is a product, a fruit of the housing plan. I really, really think we need to have district housing plans and not an overall Oahu one. The reason why, I just met with all of the housing specialists in my community that help homeless get into housing. I'm sitting with them and I'm troubleshooting through what type of housing are you not able to find or do we not have in our community. So we're identifying the age groups, the types, the ethnicities, the AMIs, the disability qualifications, and we're coming up with the ones that we know are a gap in our community. So I'm writing a policy statement for my district based upon all of our feedback, because we have regular meetings about this. I think that should dictate a district plan, just real basic policy about homelessness and housing, because they kind of go together, sort of, like not all the time, but it's always there. Then that should spit out into what the list of priorities is for the city, because then we know we're addressing the exact gap that that district has, which I already know which ones we need in my district. So thank you very much, Director, though.
That's great feedback, Councilmember, and we appreciate that. The focus on not to belabor the issue, but the focus on this the particular round of requests for qualifications was really to get the older inventory out the door.
Understood. Thank you, Director.
Thank you so much.
Chair.
Yeah, Councilmember Toba.
Thank you, Chair. Kind of along the lines with what Councilmember Cordero as well, Councilmember Tupola said. And by the way, thank you, Councilmember Tupola, for the cleanup this weekend. And it is super frustrating when we go to the meetings. And I honestly believe that a lot of them don't understand. We kind of talked about it a little bit. They don't know the A's and the B's to the whole process. So yes, we got to do a better job. But kind of along the questions, so the Kobayashi group that did that project, we were here when kind of funding stopped, and then when it went on, it was very successful. It was done really quick. So what did they do differently to make their project go quick that we should know? Or why was they so successful in making this thing, push up really quick?
Choose your partners well. They're a terrific development partner.
Explain that for the people watching, because we hear a lot of abbreviations, RFQs, but to make it very easy for the general public, because they probably see a lot of things that we should get done quickly or really don't understand. And again, what made the project so successful that it moved so quickly when you say partners, the process?
So it was a great project team. There's no question. The developer has put together a tremendous project team, and they executed. And that's, really our goal is execution. We're moving our platform towards execution so we can get stuff done rather than talking about it. Verona Village is a storied project that's taken 30 years to get off our books, and that's just unacceptable. We recognize that. Each project, Councilmember, is different. If you're developing a high-rise project versus a low-rise couple-story walk-up, tremendously different. The time it takes to develop concept drawings, construction drawings, and get those approved on a low-rise development versus a high-rise development is very different, and the entitlement process is very different. So I would suggest that at Verona we had in Capital A we had a clear site. Didn't have too many issues to clean up, had a tremendous development partner, had a really great program that was just, easy to execute, and they just really did a great job with it.
Cool. I just wanted to make sure that, people who are watching, understand that, this process can be successful. Again, having the right partners and making sure that everything's laid out for it so that we can get projects moving along, because it is kind of frustrating watching projects take 10 years or in my case with Verona, almost 100 years now. So thank you.
Thank you for those comments, Councilmember. I don't have that many years, so we're trying to get stuff done quickly.
No, mahalo for those questions. Seeing no other questions from the committee, just wanted to say mahalo for putting this together, yourself and the team. Definitely excited about the 30% AMI RGP that is coming back, and so looking forward to hearing what awards are made under that. I'm assuming maybe like May timeframe?
Oh, no, it's in review now, so hopefully, I don't want to commit
Of course.
overcommit, but we'd love to get that done sooner rather than later.
Okay, so even better if it's at the end of the month. But yeah, I know the committee may have to meet. And then if you want to just walk us through again, so for RGPs and RFQs, are those both on the same solicitation website, the state hands website, or
Yes.
how does that work?
So we post directly to hands. One additional thing that's helped us quite a bit in terms of getting at least the RFQs posted quicker is that Director Designate Tashner worked together with the procurement department to basically develop a pilot program that allows the Department of Land Management through the procurement office to prepare the documents and then hand those to procurement, and they simply post them.
Oh, perfect.
So it's been a really great program, and so you can see how we've been able to accelerate some of these issuances. With the request for grant proposals, however, because it's Affordable Housing Fund, it's a charter requirement, and we have to go through the full procurement process.
Yeah, and just to make sure I'm understanding, so when you say request for grant proposals, Affordable Housing Fund, essentially you put out money, tell developers they can apply, submit proposals for how to use that money. The committee would do the evaluation, then make an award, and that's generally how Affordable Housing Fund money can get out, through taking in proposals and awarding, right?
That's correct. So it'd be development partners, nonprofit partners. One of the ways that we can potentially accelerate city lands that are being developed under a request for qualifications is to combine the two.
Yeah.
So it makes it's easier for us to get the projects out. They support city projects on city land. We can control the affordability. We can control the demographic working with the developer. And it's just a great resource to be able to combine.
No, that's awesome. So when you say combine, you could just put the land out for qualifications or seeking developers, or you're saying you could include in the solicitation funding that can also be awarded, like Affordable Housing Fund money, to help facilitate the development on that parcel?
That's a great question. And so in the RFQs, or request for qualifications, we also included a line where the development partner can ask for city funds. They can request city funds, so we can see what they potentially need.
Perfect. I think that's really helpful as we work towards consolidating the list of city parcels that can be utilized for housing and community benefit opportunities. Seeing no questions from committee, we'll go ahead and go to testimony. Mahalo again, Director. Don't believe we have anyone in person registered to testify. You can come forward if you're here to testify, but seeing none, we'll go online. I believe we have Lindell Pittman registered. You can go ahead and unmute if you're able to. Perfect, and then go ahead and proceed. Identify yourself and proceed when you're ready.
Yes, I just want to speak to what the congressman just spoke to earlier in regards to the homelessness, how to make sure they have access to livable situations. I wrote in my testimony about my experience right now. I moved here from South Korea after teaching abroad for 15 years, and I had to live at moved here a year ago. I had to live at Cam's Shopping Center for 3 months. It was so expensive. Then I finally got into a shelter and I tried to get my driver's license. To this day, I haven't gotten my driver's license. The DMV said they could not mail it to me, a lot of other excuses. So I'm still just trying to get that. So getting your mail is really difficult. And another thing I found when I moved here, when I was living at the shopping center, your stuff gets stolen. So storage is a really crucial issue. So we're talking about very basic stuff. If you want to move people off homelessness out of homelessness to making a regular living, those were some of the challenges I face. So I just want the committee to be aware of that. I'm not sure if you could do anything about it or even if this is the proper format, but I moved here and I just I'm just like anyone else, just a citizen, a neighbor. I just want to get involved and see what I could do about it, at least learn about what you're talking about. So maybe in the future I could help somebody else. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And could you go ahead and identify your name for the record as well?
Oh, I'm sorry. I am Lindell Pittman, LINDELLPITTMAN.
Mahalo. Thank you, Mr. Pittman, and mahalo for your testimony in here. We do have a question for you from Councilmember Tupola.
Aloha, Mr. Pittman. Thank you for testifying and logging in today. I just wanted to say you can call my office if you want to get involved in any of the homeless outreach that we do, or if you want to cover up graffiti. Councilmember Tolba does a lot of that. I just was excited when you said you wanted to get involved. So please reach out to any of us. We would love to get you involved in some of our community efforts. And thank you for being civically engaged.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no other questions and no other testifiers online, we'll go ahead and go back into discussion. Members, were there any final questions or discussion? Hearing none, mahalo again for the presentation today, and we look forward to future updates. We'll then go to council, or agenda item rather, number 2. This is Bill 14, 2025, amending Chapter 2 of the revised ordinances of Honolulu 2021 by repealing Article 33 relating to the First Source program. Councilmember Dos Santos, Sam, did you have any words you wanted to share? I know it's a cleanup measure, pretty straightforward.
Yeah, no, thank you for hearing this. Again, it's a cleanup measure. This is one of many that we need to do all throughout the ordinances. Thank you.
Appreciate that, mahalo. Deputy Director, did you have any additional comments you wanted to provide?
Hello and good afternoon. Edward Los Panos, Deputy Director, Department of Community Services. So we're in support of this measure. It's an obsolete measure, and it can be taken off the books. I'm available for any questions if anybody has any questions about the program.
Mahalo, appreciate that. Seeing no questions, we'll go to testimony. Having no registered testifiers, anyone in person wanting to testify can come forward. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and offer anyone online wanting to testify can use the raise hand feature or *9 on your phone. Seeing none and having no registered testifiers, we'll go ahead and close testimony and go back into discussion before I make my recommendation. Seeing no additional discussion, Chair is going to recommend that Bill 14, 2025 be reported out for passage on third reading. Any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. And then that's going to bring us to agenda item number 3, Bill 18, 2025, addressing certain single-use plastic containers and adding new article to Chapter 34 of the ROH relating to single-use plastic bottles. Members, please note that we posted on the agenda, posted CD1, identified as OCS 2025-0257/3/25/2025, timed 12:46 p.m., which I submitted, and a summary of the amendment was also posted on the agenda. Just to summarize, it relates to incorporating, exempting the blind vendor program from this particular ordinance. We do have Dr. Kealoha Fox from the administration. Dr. Fox wanted to offer if you had any comment or input on the measure today.
Yes, thanks so much, Vice Chair, Committee, and Honorable Council members. Kealoha Fox with the Office of Climate Change, Sustainability, and Resiliency. Our office is in support of the measure, and I just wanted to also make sure that you folks understood that we also supported the exemption that's been added in CD1 for the exemption for vendors participating in the Licensed Blind Vendor Program, part of the Randolph-Shepard Act. We have been in communication with the Department of Human Services, with the Ho'opono program that oversees the Licensed Blind Vendor Program. We do have 3 within city facilities. One of them is in the Fosse Municipal Building, one of them is at Kapolei, and the other one is at HPD. And so those vendors do operate vending machines on our city properties, and those are the 3. And then we're looking for other data that the Ho'opono program could be able to provide for us that quantify some of the usage and any impacts that that might have. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mahalo, for that information. Any questions for Dr. Fox before we go to testimony? See none, thank you again. We'll, having no in-person registered, I don't believe, or is he registered? Oh, Abe. Okay, Mr. Abe. Okay. I'll take you off remote. You go ahead and identify yourself and proceed when you're ready. Mahalo for being here.
Is that, hello? Hi. Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Gavin Abe, Branch Administrator at Ho'opono Services for the Blind, testifying on behalf of Department of Human Services Director Ryan Yamane. Apologize for the late testimony. Appreciate the intent of this bill and the recent addition for the exemption of our licensed blind vendors in the city and county of Honolulu locations. And Dr. Fox, for your comments as well. I'm available for any questions you might have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Seeing no questions for the testifier, mahalo for your work in coming in today. Having no other in-person testifiers, we'll go ahead and go online. We did have David Thorpe registered as a remote testifier. Mr. Thorpe, if you're online, you can go ahead and proceed when you're ready.
Chair, testifier is not logged on.
Okay. Anyone else online to testify, Madam Clerk?
Chair, there are none.
Mahalo. Seeing no other testimony, we'll go ahead and close testimony and go back into discussion. Any discussion, members? Councilmember Tupola.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chair, for the amendment and for hearing out the testifier. I was very grateful that he came to the hearing. And, you know, I continue to be in opposition to this. I do think that even though it's narrow, that we do need to be aware that there's not a law needed for everything, and we could change our contracts at the city, which might be an even more powerful way to decrease waste, seeing as though all of the things that we have shipped in are all wrapped in plastic. I do want to state on behalf of the district that I represent and the people that work in these industries that plastic bottles that you're referring to are not single use, and many of them are recycled. And I hope that all of us can continue to do and support our recycling efforts as we try to decrease landfills on our island. Thank you.
Mahalo. Councilmember Toba.
Chair, I will continue to be on the same track and voting no, and echo a lot of the concerns, same as Councilmember Tupola, so thank you.
Mahalo for that. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Thank you, Chair. You know, there's been a lot of, I think, discussion about the potential impacts of this measure, and I think there's some people who have alleged this is going to, you know, be a significant burden to the plastic producers here on this island. So in response to that, on March 20th, I sent a letter to the Department of Enterprise Services, DPR, and other agencies that might potentially have vending machines in the city, asking how many vending machines there are. The total number of vending machines that we have is something like, I don't know, 11 of them in parks, and there's a few others in other facilities. I think it's a total of less than 30. And so, you know, to the extent that this is something that's going to be a burden to the plastic producers, I think that we can tamp that down and just talk about the reality of, I think this sends a signal that we, the council, you know, do take these issues seriously. And, you know, to the extent that we can say in our city vending machines, you know, we'd like to reduce the number of single-use bottles, I think that's a positive signal that we can send. And to the point that my colleague from the West Side brought up, you know, we can do other things as well, but we can do all of these things, but Bill 18 is a very limited, narrow, but positive step. So thank you.
Councilmember Cordero, Vice Chair Cordero.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, members, for the months of discussion as well as from last year. I definitely was thinking about this throughout the past year, or half a year, I should say. And I mean, for me and working with youth in my district, they definitely want to see a future that's plastic-free. And I definitely want to be someone that they can look at and see that we have passed policy, because even though we can make any amendments or make changes, this is something that they can really point to. Maybe they want it in their cafeteria or something at their snack shops to have a change there. And that's something that, once again, I'm sure all of us get reached out to by students all the time, and that is something that, once again, it would be a great model. I do have to say that for the options part, I think a lot of the time people don't see that non-plastic bottles are an option for them if it's not available to them, and having that available at our city facilities would be able to show them that as well, because people already are bringing their own different, like, big big water bottle jugs like I even do. So the options are there. We already have our options. We bring our own. And so, but if the option is there to choose a better type of material, and I think that's a pretty big, good step and big step in the future. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, no, appreciate that sentiment. I was like Googling, trying to find, are there vending machines where you can, you know, get like a reusable water bottle from, because we already have the refillable station. Because you could probably find some that are like a couple bucks each, and that'd be cheaper than even the Dasani water. But yeah, I agree with the sentiment of our youth. You know, when I was at the Waikele Opera, they do every year, the third graders put on an opera with Hawaii Theater, Opera Theater, and the upper classes write the scripts all on their own, and then the third graders do all the choreography, and it was all about, you know, impacts of the larger storms we're facing, the changes in our climate. You know, just at the Kaleopu'u Honor Society induction, you know, they were talking about all the public service they do with sustainable coastlines, and again with this, I think. You know, this started with a simple request from some students that did diligent research. And for me, I mean, I totally understand the concerns that are raised. But for me, if we're going to tell folks no, I want there to at least be a good reason. And if there's not an actual reason, then I don't want to tell them no. And I think we've outlined how this is very targeted, and we're not trying to hurt businesses. We're trying to lead by example. And so appreciate the dialogue and understand the direction that we're going, and hope that it'll stimulate increased policy. I'm grateful that last year, I think CCSR, when the prior bill was discussed, made the decision, which most of them are probably already doing, to cut out single use from the office and use reusable bottles. And so just really grateful for our youth, continuing to hold us accountable, convict us, share their truth, because it really is, for them, you know, we'll be leaving them this island once we're long gone. So I know there's opposition, so I'll go ahead and do roll call. Vice Chair Cordero.
Aye.
Okay. Councilmember Dos Santos, Tam.
Aye.
And I'll make my CD1, yeah. Sorry, I'm doing recommendation. So the chair is going to recommend that Bill 18 be amended to the posted proposed CD1, identified as OCS 2025-0257. Any objections to amending it to exempt the blind vendor program? Okay, no exemptions to that, no objections, reservations. The bill's amended to the CD1, and the chair is going to recommend that Bill 18 CD1 be reported out for passage on third reading. And we'll go to Vice Chair Cordero again.
Aye.
Councilmember Dos Santos, Tam.
Aye.
Councilmember Toba, no. And then Councilmember Tupola, no.
No.
Yeah, mahalo. And then Chair Weyer would be an aye. Okay. Okay, so there are 3 ayes and 2 noes, so the motion carries. Perfect, mahalo. And then that's going to bring us to agenda item number 4, Bill 28, 2025, amending provisions in section 42-1.12, subsection A of the revised ordinances of Honolulu 2021 relating to the collection and disposal of refuse. Director Babcock is present. I'll go ahead and turn it over to you for any comments.
Good afternoon, Chair Weyer, Vice Chair Cordero, committee members, Roger Babcock, Department of Environmental Services, testifying in support of Bill 28. The reason for the bill is to give us another year to get our food waste recycling facility in operation. It is currently under construction, but it's taken a little longer than we had hoped, but should be done sometime the end of the year. Give us time to get it operating, get a lot of public outreach so folks can begin to recycle food waste and manufactured compostable materials in with green waste, and then it can be turned into compost. Currently, those materials are all go in the gray cart and they get burned at H-Power. So this would be really important for diversion as well as producing recycling and reusing materials. So we're in strong support of the bill. happy to answer any questions. Thanks.
Mahalo, Director, appreciate that. Seeing no questions or any questions from the committee, Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you. Director, is this going to be happening with Hawaii Earth Products, or you guys are doing this separately?
Yeah, so we've awarded the contract to HER, and they are currently in construction of the facility necessary. So a revised facility was necessary in order to be able to incorporate food waste into the composting operation.
Yeah, I think I saw it. They toured me around. I just wanted to make sure I was seeing the right thing. So your projected timeline of completion for that facility is when?
Right now, it's the end of the year, this year, end of the calendar year. But that could still get delayed. So we want to, so the cushion is good, as well as to be able to do, we need to do a pretty extensive outreach program in order to get people to understand what they can and can't do, how they do it, and how it's going to work, so that we can get good participation.
Is the facility going to be airtight for the capture of methane?
Right. So there is, so that is the requirement for this type of facility. So the contractor needed to get a new permit from the Department of Health, and that was the requirement, that it be enclosed, essentially. And that has to do with vectors and vector attraction, and as well as odors.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you, Director. We'll go to testimony.
Thank you.
And I don't believe we have any registered testifiers on this item. Anyone in person can come forward, but seeing none, will go online. Anyone wishing to testify can use the raise hand feature. Having no one online to testify, we'll go ahead and close testimony and go back into discussion. Seeing no additional discussion from the committee, chair is going to recommend that Bill 28, 2025 be reported out for passage on second reading and scheduling of a public hearing. Are there any objections, reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Mahalo again, Director. And then that brings us to agenda item number 5, Bill 29, 2025, amending provisions in section 8-10.33, subsection A of the revised ordinances of Honolulu 2021 relating to affordable housing. I don't see anyone from DPP. So we'll go ahead and go to testimony. Don't believe we have any registered testifiers for this item as well. Anyone wishing to testify can come forward or signal online by raising your hand. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close testimony, go into discussion. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, chair is going to recommend that Bill 29, 2025 be reported out for passage on second reading and scheduling of a public hearing. Any objections, reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Okay, almost there, members. And then on to the last but not least item of the day, number 6, review and evaluation of the Commission on Economic Revitalization pursuant to Chapter 3, Article 15, Revised Ordinances of Honolulu 2021. The Committee on Housing, Sustainability, Economy, and Health will review and evaluate the Commission on Economic Revitalization and make recommendations to the Council on whether the ordinance establishing the Commission should be retained, amended, or repealed. We do have Director Asselby as well as Vice Chair of the Commission, Eliza Talbot, present. I'll go ahead and turn it over to you at this time if you had any comments or anything you wanted to present or share with the committee.
Mahalo, Chair Weyer and council members. My name is Amy Asselby. I am the Executive Director in the Office of Economic Revitalization. I thought in response to the required review of the commission, I just share a few basic points of information and facts about the commission. First is that the Commission on Economic Revitalization was created in October of 2020 via the resolution that also established the office 20-197 FD1. The commission was thus established under the Mayor's Executive Reorganization Authority and is in the City Charter Section 6-109. There are 9 members of the commission, and they represent expertise in the areas of small business, finance, sustainable economics, and community development. The commission recommends strategies for the city to encourage equitable and sustainable economic advancement. They help with the development of new businesses and industries and reinvestment to guide the city's economic investment strategy. So the commission was established 2 years ago, and over that lifespan, they have submitted 2 reports, one in 2023 and their work in 2024, to the city council to reflect on the work and the strategic advice of the commission. These reports really set forth annual objectives for the Office of Economic Revitalization, since the commission, when they started, adopted the Honolulu Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy as the overall strategy. And the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, or CEDS, is a process that the entire, I don't know, there's 200 to 300 people on this island that are involved. It is federally directed. Each county does their own CEDS, and that is compiled and creates the state CEDS, Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, which is how we are able to access federal funding in the area of economic development. So this 5-year strategy is what OER will point to when we apply for federal funding in the area of economic development, and it's what the commission adopted as their 5-year strategic plan. So those reports basically point out the goals over each year that they've been in existence that they are encouraging OER to work on in the coming year. Aligned with the CEDS and the commission-directed UHERO Small Business Survey that was conducted last year, the commission set forth 3 priorities for 2025. So to update you on those, they are: 1, to investigate the development of a local preference for small businesses in city procurement. Number 2, the commission designated $25,000 to pilot a small business incubator program to foster the growth of companies from underserved communities. And we've talked to a few of you about that. That's the Idea to Biz program, which will launch in May out in Waianae. So we're really looking forward to getting that started and soliciting entrepreneurs to participate in that pilot program. Number 3, the commission really wants to help advocate for policies, programs, and priorities of the office. And the big one in front of us today is a draft revision to Chapter 38. So Chapter 38 is really something that is overall proposed by the Department of Land Management, but the interest for OER is being able to utilize city spaces without the competitive bidding process for economic and community development. So we've talked a little bit further with a few of you on that, but we've developed some criteria and other proposals for the city council to consider what would economic and community development actually look like if you were to do that. And we look forward to that legislation coming forward for consideration and the input and the ongoing input and advocacy of our commission on that work. And so I also have this year's chair of the commission here with me, Eliza Talbot, if you have any questions or if she'd like to provide a comment.
Certainly welcome comment.
Is it on now? Okay. Thank you so much, Chair and council members. Thank you for the opportunity to share about the commission. We have a lot of work ahead of us. As Amy mentioned, the office has only been in existence for about 5 years now. The commission is new, but we have a lot of good work that we want to do. And another thing that she didn't mention was our look at trying to figure out how to make a preference for small businesses in our procurement at the city. We really feel like that's another low-hanging fruit item that we could really do a lot to improve the outcomes for contracts with the city and give them the performance that they need in order to get bigger contracts. So we're really looking forward to working with all of you guys on that. And another thing that I would like to focus on as well this year is business resiliency and preparing for emergencies. So I know that's something that Amy's team has already started to prepare for, but we think that that's a really important part of the Commission's role, as well as food sustainability. So we look forward to working with all of you guys, and thank you so much.
Mahalo for that, Chair and Director, for your work. Any questions for either Director Asobai or Chair Talbot? I was gonna open it up to either, because I think both of all three of these programs and then the other ideas that were mentioned sound super exciting and awesome. And so I think one of the things that would be helpful for us to understand too, just understanding all the different folks involved in these processes from state to federal to community level, and just wondering how the city maybe uniquely fits into the conversation and is maybe filling gaps or supporting and elevating other work without necessarily duplicating. I don't know if either of you have thoughts on that, on like where the need exists and then how this is, you know, contributing to all the great work that everyone's doing so we can kind of do it all together.
Sure. So I'll let Amy kind of add more color, but we just left a commission meeting where we were talking about food sustainability and food systems with DBED, as well as Hawaii Investment Ready. And so part of that work is finding what each group is doing so that we don't overlap, and also filling in the gaps. And so that's something that the Commission is really focused on. And I think that Amy's team has done a really great job of supplementing rather than overlapping and duplicating any kind of efforts of the state, especially DBED. So I think that that's been really great so far. Amy, I don't know if you have anything you want to, okay.
Appreciate that. See no other questions, we'll go ahead and go to testimony. Appreciate you both for being here. Having no registered testifiers, anyone wishing to testify in person can come forward. Seeing none online, anyone wishing to testify can identify themselves. Having no registered or unregistered testifiers online, we'll go ahead and close testimony and then go back into discussion. I was going to ask you no other questions. I'll be brief, and then we'll be wrapped up after this. But when we're talking about the Chapter 38 amendments, and maybe this would be for Director Asobai, could you just maybe walk through again kind of how that works, who it's supporting, what gap it's filling, and just how it's, well, in my mind, low-hanging fruit, but I just would maybe like to hear maybe your thoughts on that.
I would say that OER is not the subject matter expert on Chapter 38. That is, the revisions to Chapter 38 are being undertaken by the Department of Land Management. And I think the exciting part of this is that for once, there's an entity in the city that's taking an economic development mindset to some of the ways that, you know, the city has operated year after year, and kind of looking at some of our ordinances with fresh eyes. And so in this case, where I hope I don't speak out of turn here, but I do know that there had been some instances where a city lease was available, but the only method to procure for the use of that space means that it goes to RFB, so the highest bidder is the one who will be able to use that space. But often that will leave out our nonprofit organizations, smaller entrepreneurs, or even local companies and businesses, as well as where OER thinks there's an opportunity to be involved, which would be bringing programs to some of these city spaces. So for example, if the council were to favorably consider revisions to Chapter 38, we believe that as a pilot project, we'd love to start looking into and further developing some of the vacant retail spaces in Chinatown. Now, these spaces some of them have been utilized Some of them are gutted and have been sitting vacant under affordable housing. So there's people living there, there's retail around them, but what the city owns is, underutilized, to put it nicely. And so what we would like to do would be to bring economic and community development programming into those spaces such that in partnership with MOCA, we could bring, art and creativity, but in terms of economic development, could we bring an accelerator or an incubator program there? So some of our smallest or newest businesses and entrepreneurs might have a space to be able to try their business in a retail storefront and take the lessons from that as to whether to expand, what products sell, and just kind of be a part of an extra stage, maybe in, for example, we have a number of accelerator executive directors on our commission, and they do a great job moving the businesses from ideation or, maybe one phase of business to growth, expansion, and export. And we would love to also add a new segment to some of these accelerator and incubator programs where they have a space to test their product that is very low cost, because the city is interested in promoting economic development and community development in our spaces.
No, I appreciate that. I guess I'm kind of hearing, so we have all these different program opportunities that go on, but one of the things that many local businesses lack is this innovative space, maybe, or just a place to do, their passion.
And, right. So it may be businesses, it may be economic development or community development programs. And we've also been in discussion with UH because they're very interested in these spaces for innovation, for advanced manufacturing, in looking at, their innovation and research program. One of the things they lack is the space to do it. And so we've been in discussions with them for over 1.5 years now, and have some pending funding in that area. But some of these changes would require revisions in our ordinance. And so we look forward to working with our sister city departments on that and bringing some creative thinking and some, economic development ideas to your consideration.
And these would all be local businesses, small businesses.
So that criteria we'd love to share when we get to that point, but being an Oahu resident, being a locally registered business would clearly be a very important part of that criteria.
Yeah. Appreciate that. Thank you. Seeing no other questions from the committee, the chair is going to recommend that action on this matter be postponed to the next scheduled meeting of the Committee on Housing, Sustainability, Economy, and Health. We'll draft the report based on all the discussion today. Chair will take this matter under advisement and prepare a draft committee report and recommendations for consideration at that meeting. Any objections, reservations? Hearing none. So ordered. Mahalo everyone for attending and participating in today's meeting. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned. Mahalo.